Welcome to FPTV and welcome to FPTV New Releases with my special guest today, the one and only Anthony Del Cole. How are you, mate?
I am fantastic, Andrew. I'm so pleased to be chatting with you today.
Yeah, no, it's great. Thank you for finding the time for us. And we're here to talk about the Assassin's Creed Origins Special Edition, which is publishing it on the 25th of November 2020, published by the good people at our sister company, Titan Books. And yay, go Titan! And yeah, you can pre-order the book from the links attached to this interview. And we're here with Anthony, who's the writer on the project. He is, of course, famous for Kill Shakespeare, for Assassin's Creed Gold, his graphic novel with Image, Son of Hitler, and his upcoming Noir series is going to be The Death of Nancy Drew. Also, his first Marvel Comics project, one of my favorites, Luke Cage Everyman, tracking down a serial killer while dealing with a diagnosis of CTE, which is very timely at this moment right now, in this crazy mixed up world in which we're in. So yeah, I mean, I love those books, mate, but I'm here to ask you about Assassin's Creed Origins, the special edition. So what can you tell us about the project?
Well, I mean, first of all, I mean, thanks for that lovely intro. Thank you. Yeah, I mean, it's weird. I'm at that point in my career where I have all these books and all these titles that have come out, and when people start to mention them, I'm like, oh yeah, I did that one. I did that. Wow, I've actually done a lot. But no, I mean, I'm extremely happy. That Titan Books is putting out a special edition version of Assassin's Creed Origins, and I'm glad to be talking about it. It's a project that I am so proud of. It's something that kind of fell on my lap, I'd like to say. And one of those special things where I got an email one day and, like the clouds parted and the sun shone down. Exactly. And I was like,
the hand of God enters the frame.
Exactly. Or the hand of Ubisoft.
Yeah. Well, isn't that just the same thing?
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah. But yeah, no, it was something that I was extremely proud to be affiliated with. I was extremely proud to be involved with and to have written. And yeah, I'm super excited about that Titan Books is putting out the special edition.
And what flavors? Now, the artist on the book, and I'm going to ask you to pronounce his name for me.
Oh no! No.
Purely because I'm not sure if I've got it right. Is PJ? How would you pronounce his name, Anthony?
The name or the first name?
The first, his surname, his last name.
Oh wow! You know what? We've never actually had a conversation over the phone, so I don't actually know how to pronounce it. We just call him PJ. I mean, yeah, myself, the team at Titan, the team at Ubisoft, across the board is just, oh, PJ. No, like, oh, PJ can do this. So let's ask PJ. So yeah, I mean, Kiowa?
Yeah, I mean, that's
Kiowa. We'll go Kiowa.
Certainly, and I'm terribly sorry, mate. I didn't mean to put you on the spot. Around the Titan Comics office, that's what we call him. But I've often wondered if that's more of maybe a Hawaiian reading of his name than it's actually intended to be.
But question, yeah.
I'm going to make a point of finding out. Anyway, PJ is an amazing artist, and I think you guys are a great pairing. What can you? How did you know PJ? Had you worked with him previously on anything or encountered him before?
No, not at all. PJ was the discovery of Titan and of Ubisoft, I believe. I mean, how I came onto the board of the project, like I said, the clouds parted one day and all of a sudden this opportunity was here. I mean, I had worked with Ubisoft and with Titan on Assassin's Creed, like the Assassin's Creed original series, which came out, I think, in 2015 or 2016. And myself and a co-writer, Connor McCreary, my Kill Shakespeare co-creator, we had done 14 issues of that, so 3 trades. And so we'd loved the experience of working with Titan and with Ubisoft. And then after the game, obviously, of Assassin's Creed Origins, they wanted to do the spin-off comic. It was sort of very quick. Like they knew roughly what they wanted the story to be. They knew it wanted to be a continuation of Aya, past the game. Like what happens when she goes from Greece to Rome. And it was something that I know Titan wanted to put it out quickly, and so did Ubisoft. And they contacted me and they're like, "Hey, we've already worked with you. We trust your stuff. We love what you've done since." I think at that point, it's Son of Hitler had come out, Nancy Drew and the Hardy Boys, The Big Lie had been released. They're like, "Anthony, like, is there any way you can help us out here?" And I said, "Okay, to work with Titan, to work with Ubisoft, to deal with the Assassin's Creed world, and then also to deal with the assassination of Julius Caesar. Like, check, 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 check.
Yeah, right
Yes,
on.
let's do it." And I think PJ had already been. I think PJ was already on board as well.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I mean, it was sort of a no-brainer. I mean, when you put all these talented people together, all these teams together, I was like, yes, let's do it. And so, yeah, I was extremely happy to. I never worked with PJ before, but as soon as they mentioned that he was the artist on the project, I started to look through some of his past work. And I was like, yes, like, this is going to be fantastic.
Yeah, I think you guys actually have a very kind of special magic together on the page, and sometimes it happens, and sometimes it doesn't. But it's so wonderful when it does. Given the fact that you live in different countries to each other, were there any difficulties or challenges you faced due to your distance? And how did you, if there were, how did you work around them? How did you find that process?
I mean, I've had all sorts of different relationships with artists across the spectrum. I mean, some of them, hands-on, like for instance with Kill Shakespeare, when we first started, we were all in the same city. We'd get together once a week. We'd go through the artwork, like panel by panel, stroke by stroke at some point. And then others where no relationship at all, no direct contact at all. Everything goes to the publisher. I mean, PJ is sort of that in between. Like, we weren't in the same city. We didn't actually have that many. Like I said, we didn't have any direct conversations on the phone. Everything was over email. Some email through the publisher, but some direct email. But yeah, I mean, it was. And I mean, the relationships where we don't talk over the phone, sometimes it turn out to be really bad. There's one title that I've released that I won't even mention. And the artist just did not understand, did not have a firm grasp of English at all. And so there were some scenes where I would write, I'd script like, this needs to be done here, or that takes place here. And then it's a completely different setting, completely different emotions, and it ruins everything. And so when it comes to, so every time, that's always my worst case scenario. So when PJ came on board, I knew he was a talented artist, but I was a little scared. But then as soon as I saw the first few pages for issue number 1, I was like, okay, we're in good hands here. He knows exactly what we're trying to do. And in fact, it's one of those rare cases where the artist escalates it or makes it even better. There's some scenes, and I'm sure we'll talk about it at some point. There's a huge hippo battle scene.
And you know what? That is definitely on my list of questions.
I'm sure it was. But I mean, like, for instance, when those pages came in, I was like, oh my God, this is amazing. Like, he just makes it that much better. So I'm extremely proud to work with PJ on this.
Yeah, I know. I think you're two great creators, and we're very proud of the work that you've done on this book. How did you find translating game characters into a comic? What kind of challenges are involved in that?
There are challenges, but in some respects, I find it almost easier. I mean, in my career, I've done a lot of things in terms of creating original concepts and also dealing with characters that are pre-existing. So, you mentioned Luke Cage, you mentioned Kill Shakespeare, which is all the Shakespeare characters together. Assassin's Creed. I mean, a lot of these, I actually enjoy working with characters that are pre-existing because I like the confines. So it's like, okay, I already know who the character is. I know what he or she, in the case of Assassin's Creed Origins, I know Aya. She's very popular. She's in the game. Here's all the things that happen. And by the way, I think I mentioned Greece before. I apologize. I meant Egypt. Sorry, total flip there. It's, we're in the middle of a quarantine. What can you say?
And Cleopatra did have Greek heritage as well. So subconsciously, I'm sure you're referencing that.
There you go. But no, so I mean, I enjoyed the fact that there are rules and there are parameters in place. And that's everything, especially when you're working with Ubisoft and in the Assassin's Creed world, because they have this lore, they have this continuity that's been created over the last, a decade plus. Like, here's what, here's, for instance, the affiliation of Cleopatra. Here's the affiliation of Brutus. Here's the affiliation of these people, and they have their own wiki pages, basically. And so, like, this character would do this character would not do that. And so, yeah, I mean, I like to play within the confines, and that's why I love historical fiction as a genre, and that's why I've always loved the Assassin's Creed universe, because I mean, whether it's something that takes place in Egypt, in Greece, in ancient Rome, like whatever it is, like here are the things that have to happen. Like Julius Caesar died, but what if, and that's what's great about these historical fiction stories and such. Great, like what if, he died not, what if I was the one that actually plunged the blade in first? What if, in Assassin's Creed Gold, the Audible series that I put in, like what if Isaac Newton was involved with this? Like, so I mean, playing, I love playing in those shadows or in the gray areas. And of course, it's the Assassin's Creed world. So of course I'm going to play in the shadows. So yeah, I mean, the great thing about video game characters, circling back to the original part of the question, is that often video games, they're very two-dimensional. Like, they kick, they fight, they punch, they do that sort of thing. And telling those stories in comics or in any other mediums, you get to peel a couple more layers off the character, or you get to like build a couple layers onto the character and develop more of an arc. And that's what I really tried to do with this, in Assassin's Creed Origins, and deal with who I was at the end of the game, and then through to the assassination of Julius Caesar and what she learns, and then how she's going to, 14 years later, pay that forward, I guess you will, with her encounter with Cleopatra.
Yeah, fantastic. And you referenced it in the middle of what you were just mentioning, where it's something I'd love to leap back to. So there is indeed a really cool battle scene with hippos in this story. So why did you choose hippos? And actually, this is a question that my colleague Lauren helped me with, and she specifically phrased it to me this afternoon like this, because this was her question. Why did Anthony choose hippos and not a more fearsome animal with more teeth? That's a brilliant question. I'll ask him.
Certainly. So to set the backdrop for those that haven't read it yet. So it's actually Assassin's Creed Origins 4 issues that came out. And issue number 3 is the huge battle scene where Aya is plunged into water and she has to battle hungry, bloodthirsty hippos. And the origin of this was, at this point, I wanted to, in the scene, because Aya has been betrayed by Brutus, Mark Antony, wants her dead. And so I wanted to create like a classic gladiator type scene. Something that Russell Crowe would have battled, and we've seen tigers, we've seen in the game, we've seen the characters battle elephants. So I wanted to come up with a new character, like a new creature to battle. I didn't want like a gladiator scene where it's her and someone else in a big ring. I thought that's cliche. I wanted to do something new. So I was like, okay, let's have her battle a big creature. And like I said, we've already seen elephants in the video game. We've seen tigers, we've seen lions, we've seen all that kind of stuff in movies, but we haven't seen hippos. And I started to do research into the belief system of hippos in Egyptian culture and in Roman culture. And I think it was one of the people at Ubisoft, actually two people, both Anouk Bachman, who was the head of publishing at the time. She's still involved at Ubisoft, but in another division, and then Anne LeMay. And they were the ones that had done, and specifically because she's a historical fiction buff, she did all this sort of research for me, which is
I was going to ask you this. Yeah. Okay.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, I did a lot of research, and then, if there's anything that I couldn't find myself, I was like, Anne, do you happen to know anything about this? And so I think it was in the course of the research that Anne actually discovered that Egyptians actually place hippos high up. Like it's almost, they're not like godlike creatures, but they're very revered. And so it was really interesting to have someone from Egypt, Aya, who has to fight to the death these bloodthirsty hippos in the water. And so I was like, okay, so it's that kind of conflict that you're looking for, a character who holds these creatures, places them up on a pedestal because, they're very revered. And yet, these individual hippos want you dead. So what are you going to do? It's that great contrast between the character and their belief systems and their thirst for continuing to live. And so, yeah, I wanted to create something I had never seen before. And that's where PJ knocked it out of the park. I mean, she's plunged into this water. It's almost like the scene from Return of the Jedi where Luke is plunged into this basement. Yeah. He has no idea what's happening. He has no idea what's going to come. you have this viewing gallery that's watching, and he's like, she knows that something's going to happen, and then all of a sudden, one hippo. And these are not like small little cute little hippos. Like I said, they already have blood in their mouth, and they want more. And they're very powerful swimmers too. And so she has to battle these half dozen hippos. And so, yeah, I know I'm rambling on about it, but that's actually probably the scene that I enjoyed writing the most, because, you know, writing comics, a lot of it is just, you know, like punch, you know, kick, you know, like just those sorts of fighting scenes, and to have her battle big animals like that, it was just so much fun.
Yeah, and you've created something truly memorable, I think, as a result of that. And I love that narrative tension between the historical worshipfulness that's directed towards the hippos, and having them be this kind of nemesis that's to be feared. You know, I think you guys you really knocked it out of the park with that. Another great narrative tension that I think that you've achieved with this book is that. I've got an English degree, and I wrote a thesis about Shakespeare's Roman plays, right? And so reading this, it's the perfect marriage of things that my son loves, gaming, and things that I love, the Roman plays by Shakespeare. So I was wondering, were you familiar with those? Had you read them yourself, you know, before embarking?
The Shakespeare plays?
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, before I answer that, I just want to say that I'm so glad that this is the kind of story that can help bring father and son together. So that's the whole point of this, isn't it?
Right.
No.
So true.
Have I read the Shakespeare's plays? Yes. As the co-creator of Kill Shakespeare, you know, I've one of the things I had to do at the beginning, of course. And I was already familiar with Julius Caesar, and to me, Julius Caesar is, you know, one of the greatest stories of all time. Like, not only one of the greatest Shakespeare productions of all time, but one of the great historical tales of all time. There's just so much that you can just really sink your teeth into it about Caesar himself and the rise and fall. And it's a morality tale. It's all there. So yes, I did extensive research into I was already familiar with Caesar and his life and everything, but for this specific project, I had to dive in even deeper. Again, that's one of the reasons why I love Assassin's Creed, working in the Assassin's Creed world and in historical fiction in general. It gives me excuse to geek out on history or on different historical time periods. As a huge fan of Julius Caesar, like I said, when they first approached me with this project, saying, we want Aya from the game, and we want her in Rome, and how she's involved with the assassination of Julius Caesar, I'm like, yes, like, sign me up, because this is my wheelhouse. And like I was already referring, I referenced it before, like in the video game, you see her actually stabbing Julius Caesar. Again, a nice little twist. But I wanted to know more of what led up to that, and then more importantly, what are the repercussions? So the story is all about her and her relationship with Brutus, how Brutus is sort of a mentor to her or a guide through Rome, because when she leaves Egypt, she comes over to Rome. She doesn't have that many friends, and so she's put in contact with Brutus, and he's the one that he's walking her through, this is what happens in Rome. Egypt, but this is how Rome works, little lady. There's a bit of chauvinism there, he's very confident, he's very cocky. This needs to be done. I know exactly what we need to do to fix Rome, and she's the one that's well, if we want to kill Caesar, if we really need to get rid of him, great, but don't make a spectacle of it. And he does the exact opposite of that, and it causes dire repercussions for him, for Aya, through this story. Because for those that haven't read it, it's the first issue is all about the death of Caesar, and then the rest of it is about the fallout from it, and how they think everything's gonna be great, and then it's almost like a heist or a crime. The crime is perpetrated in issue number 1. In issue 2, 3, and 4 are okay. Oh shoot! Now that's happened. We need to escape from the authorities. We need to escape from the militias. We have to escape from the townspeople. What are we going to do to survive now that people know that publicly we've done this? It was great to be able to dive back into the world of Caesar.
Yeah, I'm really sure. I'm sure that it was, and I think it's a lovely nod to to your other work as well. Like you said, to have that sort of Shakespeare through lines, beautiful, actually.
I can't escape Shakespeare, to be honest. I mean, I thought I killed him, but he seems to be coming back for
Yeah.
more and more and more. He's a Walking Dead zombie.
It's so true. I mean, he is very. I mean, I guess that's why his work has stayed in print and actively performed for all this time. Who else has achieved that? No one.
Oh, absolutely. No,
Yeah.
absolutely. I mean, that's why I always argue that Shakespeare is the greatest, not writer of all time, but the greatest entertainer of all time.
I think
And
that's absolutely right. Yeah.
yeah, I mean, actually, I was fortunate or unfortunate to see the Shakespeare in the Park production in New York, the Central Park production. When was that? 2017. I think it was 2017, where they did Julius Caesar, but Caesar was blatantly Donald Trump.
Yeah. Yeah.
To the point where like the long red ties and everything like that.
Yes.
I thought
Fantastic.
that I didn't love the production because it felt, I felt it was really off. But
Yeah.
I mean, there's a reason why people reappropriate Shakespeare. Like, hey, let's turn Caesar into Trump. I mean, Romeo and Juliet has been told just how many times. I mean, Hamlet. I mean, they've been around for 400 years because they are the greatest stories ever told.
Yeah, yeah. Anthony, I couldn't agree more. We happen to be accelerating full tilt boogie into the end of our time together. So before we go, there's a final question I've got for you, which is, as a successful comics writer yourself, what would you advise for budding writers who are seeking to enter the industry themselves, and who want to work on big titles like this that may be attached to other IP?
Wow, that's a big question. I mean, for those that want to get into comics, I mean, the normal piece of advice that I give are, first of all, read as many comics as possible. You have to truly understand the medium, but I would say read and then reread, and read the classics, like read the great Marvel and DC ones, but read the Brian K. Vaughan stuff, read the Brian Azzarello stuff. Like read the truly, the Robert Kirkman, like read the great storytellers and dissect these individual issues. And if you really, what the great thing to do is like take a classic issue and then reproduce it. So, I mean, like you've read the final version of it. So, and then write down like page 1 is 4 panels. So like, okay, what do they do? What happens in each of those 4 panels? And you're deconstructing that way and understanding why the artist and why the writer did that. So in terms of the actual medium of the process writing, that's what I would do. And then in terms of actually like how to break into comics, the next step, breaking into comics, do something indie, do something with like a web comic that helps build your brand, be as active as possible on social media. And then how do you break into something where you're able to write existing IP, whether it's a video game, a spin-off like Assassin's Creed, whether it's something like a Marvel or DC character. That's tough. You're not going to get that right away. So you need to build up that own brand. But if there's something specifically like, I want to write Assassin's Creed, like my dream project would be to write Assassin's Creed. Write something that feels like that. So write something that's historical fiction. Write something about assassins. Write something about that's something in that, not a capital A assassins, but about killers. A secret organization, something like that. Because I mean, the reason I was able to get into Assassin's Creed was because Connor and I had written Kill Shakespeare was historical fiction. They loved our take on these pre-existing characters. And so I mean that was able to get us from point A to point B. So really, I mean, that's what I would say. Like, create something. Like, if you want to write Assassin's Creed, create something that has elements of it, and then the editors or the writers or the staff at Ubisoft or whatever, they can say, hey, well, they understand historical fiction, they understand this or that. It's not that hard a shift or pivot to kind of go like, hey, they can also do historical fiction in our world. So why don't we bring them on board and write the next AC comic?
Yeah, I think that's great advice, mate. And finally, what can you tell me about your upcoming noir series, The Death of Nancy Drew?
The Death of Nancy Drew. The Death of Nancy Drew was announced back in January on social media, and it caused a huge uproar. I'm not sure how. Oh yeah, it was huge. Oh yeah, we trended. People hated me. I got not death threats per se, but very, very vile tweets were sent in my direction.
Yeah.
The Death of Nancy Drew. Actually, there's 4 issues out right now. And the collected trade, I think, is in December. I think that book will come out. For those that aren't familiar, Nancy Drew and the Hardy Boys are huge teen detectives. They've been around for 90 plus years here in the U.S. and in North America. What it is it's the death of Nancy Drew, and myself and Joe Eismeyer, the creators of it. Issue starts out with Joe Hardy. He goes to River Heights, which is Nancy Drew's hometown, and he's standing over her grave. She died. She died in a car accident. But he believes that it was not an accident. There's more to the story. And then he vows to find out what the real truth is. And so we then we then flash back to find out exactly what happened to Nancy. And for those that are shocked by this, to think that, oh, so it's basically a story about the Hardy Boys trying to investigate Nancy Drew's death, and so we're sort of putting her off to the side. Don't worry. It's in a classic noir story. Not everything is as it seems to be.
Right on.
Exactly. Yeah. So I mean, so Nancy plays a huge role in the story.
Yeah.
That's all I can say.
Fantastic. And you're also going to be able to pre-order the collected edition of The Death of Nancy Drew from us here at Forbidden Planet. And to lurch back to what we've been talking about, which is Anthony's fantastic Assassin's Creed Origins special edition, which you can pre-order here. Mate, thanks so much for sharing the last half an hour with us. That was awesome.
Oh, thank you. This was so much fun. As I mentioned before, I miss you guys in London. London is right after New York, my favorite city in the world. I try to get out there at least once or twice a year. I try to visit Forbidden Planet. I just love you guys, and I love Titan. So it's great to be able to chat with someone from remotely at least.
Yeah, of course, it's a delight. And right back at you, mates. And remember, when we're the other side of this global catastrophe, whenever that may be, you've got to come back and say hello to us, and we'll see you in the flesh then. But hopefully, we'll chat before then and do another one of these. So I look forward to seeing you then, mate.
That'd be great. Thank you so much, Andrew.
All the best, Anthony. Take care, man.
Thanks.